Tim, welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 42 millimeters and alternately brushed and polished stainless steel. This is part of the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean family. From 2005 to the present, a bigger, bolder look for the Omega Seamaster that is nevertheless inspired heavily by the great Seamaster professional references of the late 1950s through the entirety of the 1960s. Now you can see this watch on my wrist. 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters is a perfect fit. 42 millimeters might be the sweet spot for the size of a modern sports watch because it's so versatile. Now, it's not going to look undersized on any wrist, no matter how big, how bold, but it's also not going to overwhelm a smaller wrist. I've often said that watchmakers can build larger watches, but they can't build larger customers. And this watch doesn't have to take any extreme measures in terms of paring down the lugs or creating a square or copy cushion case in order to accommodate average-sized wrists. So you get that modern wrist presence, but without any of the excess. It's also a great-looking piece that recapitulates the beveled lug look, the broad hour hands, the gorgeous semi-trapezoidal indices, fully loomed, and bezel forms of the 1960s. I really love the look of this watch, and again, that broad hour hand, more of a throwback to the 50s than the 60s. Gives this watch tremendous period charm, even though it is a thoroughly contemporary reference. I want to emphasize that the fit is perfect. Now you can see that the lugs don't overlap the edges of my wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters, so 6.3 inches in circumference, but I could wear this watch if my wrist were under 15 centimeters. If my wrist were 5.5 inches in circumference, quite small, quite petite for a man, even within the realm of a woman's wrist size, I could still wear this watch comfortably. So if you like the look of the Planet Ocean, but you want something that you know is going to be an ergonomic match for the wrist you have, this Seamaster Planet Ocean in 42 millimeters is the one to get. And being only 13 millimeters thick, it's also remarkably compatible with long sleeves or dress cuffs. It has a nice upscale white metal and black bezel and dial look, so you could absolutely wear this one with formal attire. I like to say of some watches of this style, it could be your only watch. Rugged enough, water resistant enough, casual enough for informal times, for the play half of the work-play equation, and then when you do want to dress up, when you do need to be a little bit more sober, or a lot more sober for that matter, this type of watch, this versatile dive watch, white metal, black dial, on a bracelet, absolutely rises to the occasion. Aesthetic as well as an ergonomic triumph. You see this 3-link bracelet, alternately brushed on its tops, polished on its sides, offers a very supple feel on the wrist. Now this is a little bit different from the traditional 5-link Omega Seamaster Professional Bond bracelet that we've come to know so well over the years, but in many ways it's an upgrade in as much as you get more substantial links. You get tighter tolerances between the links. This definitely represents an evolution of the modern Omega dive watch bracelet, and let me tell you, in this case, change is good. Omega took what was already excellent and made it superb. And you can see that the classic Bond deployant twin trigger milled out clasp makes an appearance here, so Omega took what worked well and they reprised that as well. Also equipped with one of the industry's best dive extensions, fold out, completely milled. This feels tougher than the links themselves on most competitors' dive bracelets. Immensely substantial. This is generally considered to be the clasp that forced Rolex to rethink its clasp quality in the mid-2000s. An outstanding piece, influential, and even in the second decade of the 21st century, still among the best. So to get this quality of clasp, which I must say cuts a remarkably low profile for a dive clasp with a built-in extension, the security of the twin triggers, the upscale, refined triple-link bracelet, and then, of course, the neo-vintage look of the Seamaster Seamaster Planet Ocean itself. This watch really has it all. And the traditional Bond Seamaster elements are still here. You get the helium release valve, which, although more of a novelty than a functional necessity, nevertheless represents capability. And as I like to say with high-performance cars and watches alike, it's not so much that you'll use the performance, but that you know it's there. And as much as Rolex and others make you pay for their graduated, higher-priced, more upscale dive watches to get a helium release valve, the fact that Omega includes it on its Seamaster Professionals and its Seamaster Planet Oceans as standard equipment is definitely to the credit of the brand. Now, the bezel itself features an outstanding ratchet. It feels good, and it also sounds great. Now, a crummy bezel can actually ruin the experience of a great dive watch. It's almost like a bad transmission in a manual transmission car. It can ruin the experience. Fortunately, Omega aces this important detail. Loomed at the pearl, it has outstanding legibility even in the dark, and that continues inboard on the dial. Now, very much vintage inspired, I should say. Everything from the applied Omega to the vintage style font of the quarter Arabic numerals to the use of these trapezoidal, heavily loomed indices and the broad arrow hands. It's a nod to Omega's past, and it is a glorious past, but it's thoroughly contemporary because what you see here are applied, polished indices. They're not printed. Each one has a metallic border individually placed by hand and centered on its station on the dial. So you have that phenomenal quality of the index as well as the hand manufacture. And it really stands out because this type of dial ages better, it holds up, it stands the test of time. Because it is luminova, it'll never degrade, it'll never fade. And because the indices are white gold, likewise, they will never tarnish. At center, the hands correspondingly white gold, outstanding examples of the level of content that you get in Omega's dive watches today. It's a step up even from the 1990s in my original Bond-style Seamaster, which featured printed indices. They've come a long way in a very short period of time, and you get that level of quality in this Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean. What you also get, as you can see from the graphical text at 6 o'clock, two refinements. One, more water resistance, now rated not to 300 meters like the Bond, but 600 meters or 2,000 feet. You ask, why do I need to go from 1,000 feet of water resistance to 2,000? I'm not a submarine, either one is fine. And while either one is fine, when the watch is right out of the factory, the bottom line is we all go a few years between services, and the bottom line is where water resistance is regarded, you should have your watch water tested on a yearly basis, because water resistance actually degrades faster than the mechanical integrity of the lubricants on your movement. So to have that extra safety buffer, that extra 1,000 feet of water resistance, you're starting from a higher baseline, and in between your water tests and your rebuilds, you're going to have a bigger margin of security with a watch rated to 600 meters than 200 or 300 meters. And the other refinement is the fact that this is a coaxial caliber. Now, while the Bond eventually got that refinement, back in the 90s, mine didn't have it, and it's a nice thing to have because it represents not just a technological breakthrough and a great backstory with the involvement of George Daniels, a true celebrity watchmaker, an all-time great in the field, but it's also an Omega exclusive, and it's one of the few genuine alternative escapement technologies available below 6 figures. Again, a true Omega exclusive, it's a downright exotic refinement for a watch in the dive watch class in this price range. The idea being that over the long haul, you'll reduce basically the maintenance requirements and the instability of the movement. So you'll have better long-term precision and reduce the maintenance requirements in the long run. It took Omega a couple of years to refine the concept, but by the debut of the Planet Oceans, they pretty much had the system down pat, essentially realizing all of the benefits that George Daniels had envisioned for the coaxial. A masterwork of engineering. It took a genius to create it, and it took Omega's courage to bring it to market. And it's very, very cool to have the coaxial caliber 2500 inside this Omega Planet Ocean Seamaster. It's the kind of thing you're not going to see in any Submariner or any Breitling Super Ocean. Very neat of Omega to include that level of refinement in a dive watch. So this watch is versatile. It's technically interesting. It's beautifully made. It's upscale, not just in comparison to its competitors, but in comparison to the Omega Seamasters made just a few years prior. At 42 millimeters, just about anyone who likes the sports watch family, the genre, the style, can wear this watch effectively. And because there isn't any outlandish detailing, an oversized case, or ill-considered use of precious metals or inset gems, this watch can go equally well with long sleeves or short, the business suit or the bathing suit. See this Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 42 millimeters in stainless steel on our website, Watch You Want.